Tis I. Hey everyone, glad to see you back, glad to see you looking fresh, and today I want to be talking about Pokemon movies, one of the franchise's aspects that not many people talk about, and I've seen every single one of these things, and I wanted to talk to you about what ones are great, which ones are not great. I'm going to be listing them from worst to best. I've done videos like this before with other franchises. I've done it in a series before where I talk about franchise movies as a whole. And today we're talking about Pokemon because I love Pokemon. I've loved some Pokemon movies. I've hated some other ones. But there are 31 movies I'm going to talk about here. I've included some of the very short episodic stuff as well. If it's like 4 episodes that round up to about an hour and a half. Consider that a movie. So without further ado, let's just jump into this. I got a lot of stuff to talk about. So rocking in all the way at the bottom, Pokemon the movie, Genesect and the Legend Awakening. I couldn't believe that they would make, first of all, a shiny legendary movie. That's cool. And a Mewtwo movie, also cool. Be completely lame. How do you make Mewtwo lame? They did it. They did it. Mewtwo's one of the best characters in this franchise, and they just try to ruin him here. I don't know. Lame movie. Don't not like it. Pokemon the movie, Diancie, and the Cocoon of Destruction. So, again, these X and Y movies, I don't know what was going on this part. The X and Y enemy is actually pretty good. Diancie is not a Pokemon I really like that much. Yveltal and Xerneas are kind of cool, but like this movie is not very cool. Pokemon the movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution. It's a remake of the very first Pokemon movie with really bad animation. Do not like the design of any of these characters, and it's basically like a shot-for-shot remake. It doesn't really do anything new or better. It's just worse in every aspect. I don't know why it exists other than for money. I don't like it. It's not good. It's hard on the eyes for sure. Pokemon the movie, Hoopa and the Clash of Ages. The best part about this, right, is there's a Hippopotas, and I love that little hippo guy. And he's like a star player in this movie. It's just a random Hippopotas that didn't deserve to be included in this massive chaotic battle of all these legendary Pokemon. But without him, many characters would have like actually passed away. So, A+ for him. I miss him. He's by far the best part about this movie. I wish he was in a better movie. The next two kind of are included together because they're basically the same movie. It's Pokemon the movie Black, Victini, and Reshiram, and Pokemon the movie White, Victini, and Zekrom. I don't know why they decided to make the same movie twice. The only reason I put the Zekrom one step above is because that's the one I saw first, and so when I want to watch the Reshiram one, I'm like, this is the same thing. I don't know if they came out on the exact same day. I don't know if it's just kind of a pick your poison on which one you want to watch more. I don't understand why they did this. But they did it, and they're both going to be penalized for it, because neither of them are very good to begin with. Pokemon Zoroark, Master of Illusion. I remember watching this movie back in 2010, the day after it came out. I DVR'd it. I was hanging out with one of my childhood best friends, and I was very excited to see it. And I sat down and watched it the morning after, and I was like, this isn't good. And I just remember sitting and thinking to myself, I'm like, maybe I am too old for this stuff. It was right around that time when, Gen 5 was starting to come out, that Pokemon wasn't seen as very cool anymore. And so it was really like hitting me in a weird way. It's like, maybe I'm getting too old for this. No, I wasn't getting too old for it. This movie's just bad. Pokemon the movie, Volcanion and the Mechanical Marvel. This one is just horridly forgettable, I think. Volcanion and Magearna are really like interesting Pokemon, like type-wise, lore-wise, but neither of them really make their mark here very well. Pokemon the Arceus Chronicles, one of the newer movies to come out. It's cool seeing Dawn and Brock again, and I think that really carried the movie for me. This is the last movie that I wouldn't really consider going back and rewatching. The rest of them going forward in this list are movies that I either legitimately like or like would happily rewatch again. So this is the last of the bad ones, I would say. Pokemon Destiny Deoxys. This is one that people love. I understand if you love. I understand it's one of your favorites. I watched it as a kid multiple times. Never really stuck with me all that much. I, of course, love the part where Rayquaza is just blasting Deoxys in point-blank range, but the rest of the movie is pretty forgettable in my opinion. Pokemon the movie 2000. I'm stepping on a lot of toes here because this is another one that I'm sure a lot of people love. The second movie in this entire franchise. I rewatched it more recently. It's still like decent, like Deoxys is, but it's just carried by nostalgia, and if I didn't have that, I don't think I would like this one very much. It's okay. The birds and Lugia are fine enough characters in this, but I don't love it like a lot of people do. I'm sorry. Pokemon Giratina and the Sky Warrior, so the Shaman movie. I remember watching this and it just being smooth sailing, easy watching. It's not hard to get through. I'm not bored. I'm not loving it. It's just an easy breezy movie. You know, not bad. Pokemon The Rise of Darkrai came out 1 year before the Giratina ones. I like this era. This Gen 4 era was peak Pokemon entertainment for me as a kid. So when I was fully invested in it all the time, I loved it. I loved being invested in this movie. Was right there with it. It just got included in that set of movies that I just like to see. Just easy and breezy. Pokemon The Mastermind of the Mirage Pokemon. So this movie always felt like this weird, like, hidden gem to me. I remember discovering it not on like Cartoon Network where the rest of the Pokemon stuff I watched at the time was. I was just like, my parents were renting movies on Netflix on the disc system, and they asked me if I'd seen this Pokemon movie, and I'm like, no, I've never even heard of it. And so we got it, and I watched it, and I didn't like fully love it. I'm like, oh my god, this is the best thing. But it was like this cool, weird little thing that's always like had a special place in my heart because like not that many people knew about it, not that many people were talking about it. But it was like this little cool thing that like I knew this was for me. It was like a dance special. So I'm not gatekeeping. I'm telling you about it right now. But like at the time, it felt very like close to my heart. Pokemon the movie, Kyurem versus the Sword of Justice. So I was surprised how much I liked this one, considering how little I liked other Pokemon movies around the time. Gen 5 movies I think are very bad. But this one shines through as like, I like the battles in it. I like the Swords of Justice characters in it. I like Keldeo story in it. I just thought it was well made, especially for a Pokemon movie. Just strong character development. I liked it quite a bit. Pokemon Arceus and the Jewel of Life. The best part about this movie was just the lore, the mythos of Arceus, and getting to hear about it, hearing about this icon of justice and like this grand power that this Pokemon is capable of holding. It's incredible, especially as a kid watching it, being like, this Pokemon's so cool. Like, this is awesome, hearing about all this stuff. So Arceus like cemented himself as this deity in the Pokemon universe, and this movie absolutely helped in that. Pokemon Mewtwo Returns. I guess Mewtwo is one of the best characters. It might be the best character in the Pokemon franchise. It's not my favorite Pokemon per se, but character-wise, character development, backstory, everything, Mewtwo is second to almost none in this franchise. And, you know, more Mewtwo will always be welcomed, and him returning only a few years after his initial debut, awesome stuff. Pokemon the movie, The Power of Us. So I watched this one very first time back in college when it came out, and I was genuinely surprised. I'm like, that was very nice. It was not a hard movie to get through. I wasn't aggravated by it. I wasn't bored. I had a pleasant time. It hit like a nostalgic note that wasn't like because I watched it as a kid, but it was like, hey, you remember your old friends? Like, you remember the Pokemon franchise? Like, here's just a nice story in that world. And so that was nice to see. Pokemon Jirachi Wismaker. So this movie, as a kid, was like this hidden thing. Not like I knew about it, no one else did. It was like this scarcity, my white whale. Like, I watched part of it at one of my childhood friends' houses, and like only half of it, and I'm like, what was that? Like, what was the Jirachi movie? And then like couldn't find it at home, like it was never showing again, and then like a year later it was on again, and I was, we gotta watch it. And we watched the whole thing, and I was like mesmerized by it. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Yeah, Max and May and their relationship with Jirachi is something that I remember fondly, and it's just a fun movie. I just really liked it a lot. Pokemon Crystal Raikou, The Legend of Thunder. So if you're here in the West like I am, you probably remember this as the first 3 episodes of Pokemon Chronicle, a pseudo spin-off, just kind of not Ash-related anime that they tried to do for a little while, and the best episodes of that were just this movie, chopped into 3 segments, and it was so cool having Raikou finally being showcased, because it was a joke for a long time that like Entei was in a movie, Suicune's in a movie, Raikou was not in a movie. Whereas yet he was in a movie, with just here in the West, he didn't get that same special treatment for a long time. But it's good. It's good stuff. It's non-Ash related stuff, so you don't like Ash, check this one out. Pokemon Forever. I remember watching this with my cousin in my old living room on my old box TV and sitting watching the whole thing. Celebi, Sweet Coon, the old the lettuce on a McChicken meme, one of the first, I think it might be the first movie that made me cry. Intensely powerful for a kid. It's pretty obvious as an adult, but it has Dark Tyranitar, who at the time was slowly becoming one of my favorites, and then seeing him in this movie, I think probably made him one of my favorite Pokemons of all time forever. Like, pun, I guess intended. That was unintentional, but like, now I'm going to say it was intentional. Pokemon the movie, Secrets of the Jungle. So this is another one of the newer ones that have come out. What I liked about this the most was the animation. I was blown away at how well animated this movie is. The story is Ash and Zarude, some jungle stuff. Pretty straightforward Pokemon story, but wow, was the animation like surprisingly good. I had a great time watching this. Pokemon Origins. This one came out, it's over 10 years ago now. Wow, this one still feels like pretty new in my mind, but I remember this one coming out and people talking about it because it's another non-Ash related thing, kind of going through Kanto. We get to see Red's storyline. We get to see different pieces of his journey told in 4 parts. And we get to see Battle of Brock. We get to see Lavender Town. Also made me cry with the stuff with Cubone. Very powerful segment of that, but very much worth a watch. Pokemon, the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back. So this is the big one. The one that I think everybody knows. The one that broke records in theaters. Huge movie in a lot of people's childhood. I really liked it. Watching it more recently, I think nostalgia carries it a good bit. However, like, there are some powerful parts in this. I think some of the quotes in this movie speak true to a lot of like real world issues, and it's very strange hearing like the quote, "The circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It's what one does with the gift of life that determines who you are." Insanely powerful quote, insanely real to a lot of people, and it came out of Mewtwo's telekinetic mind. It'll always, always, always be a very strong nostalgic memory to me. But there are some movies that I've liked more that came out after it. Pokemon Heroes. This one, bar none, is because I owned this as a kid and rewatched it countless times. Because like Pokemon movies, I guess kind of like Disney movies, were like hard to find, like airing on television. But if you owned them, you could watch them all you wanted, obviously. Or I owned Pokemon Heroes, so I watched it a lot. I remember the opening scene a lot. I like the Venetian aura of the city they're at in this movie. It's just fun. I like that it ties into the last season of Pokemon. I wasn't expecting a callback to this movie and the last part of the anime with Ash. Like, whoa, that was cool to see. But yeah, fun movie that, like I said, if I saw it as a kid, really liked it as a kid. And because nostalgic attachment, I love it to this day. Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea, another one I watched with one of my childhood friends, and we just fell in love with Manaphy. We fell in love with the Ranger idea. It's just that super strong memory is carrying this. And like to this day, I think that Manaphy's story in this, I like the underwater atmosphere, and the Rangers as a whole are just really cool. I'd love to see a new Ranger game someday. Pokemon Concierge. So this is the newest Pokemon movie-esque thing that has come out. I love the stop motion. I'm not really a stop motion guy, but I love the stop motion in this movie. The story of Haru going and becoming a Pokemon concierge, just the adorableness of the show, seeing all the Pokemon and their stop motion felt adorableness. I say adorableness so much because it is just that cute. It's so lovely. It's such an easy watch. Like, I couldn't imagine someone watching like 2 episodes of this and being like, no, not for me. It's so much fun. It's so good. Pokemon the movie, I Choose You. So this, fun fact, was on my best of the year list back in 2017 because the first time I saw it, I loved it. It just like hit the nail on the head when it came to the nostalgic beats it needed to. Because if you don't know, it's the retelling of the beginning of the anime. And so seeing Pokemon I Choose You, seeing Bye Bye Butterfree again, just retold in movie form, loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Rewatching it, those nostalgic beats that really shine through do hit again, but the rest of the movie kind of falters, and the ending is so weird that it fell a little bit on my love list, but I still think it's really good. Pokemon Detective Pikachu. So the only live-action movie, the long-awaited live-action adaptation of a Pokemon franchise. And what a fun movie. A great theater experience. I remember seeing the world of Rhyme City for the first time, fully realized, seeing the Pokemon living with the people. The CGI in this movie is great. I like the characters, I like the music, and the only time I've enjoyed hearing children talk in the movie theater, I remember very fondly, is when the Greninjas show up in this movie and they're like nudging each other, like, "Oh, that's Greninja, I know," and it's just a fun time to be a Pokemon fan and seeing like the younger generation just be excited as much as I was. So wonderful time. Do really love this one. Pokemon Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. So deep rooted in Gen 3, we got to see Lucario, this brand new Pokemon, and we get to hear more about Mew, a Pokemon that's of course legendary in status in any way you want to say. This movie has such a special place in my heart. I remember there was one of these stories that was a different friend, but this childhood best friend that I was at his house and he had this driveway, right? And we were running up and down the driveway and I tripped and fell and like slid down this gravel driveway and like ripped my knee open. And it was pretty rough. But I went home. My mom was putting like cleaning stuff on it, and they had to put this movie on in the background to distract me from how painful it was. That memory of my knee just being like seared with like cleaning solution and then like Lucario on the TV to like just focus on, like, that is such an ingrained part of my memory that like I'd love to own this movie someday, be able to tell that story to people. But I mean, that's why I love it so much, is because it just helped me get through. Obviously, it's not a horrid time. It's just a skinned knee at the end of the day. It's not like I broke a bone, but that was it. Lucario was here to help. And number one is Pokemon 3, the movie. One of my favorite movies of all time, period. Just because I love this franchise so much, so my favorite Pokemon movie would kind of therefore be one of my favorite movies. Nostalgia plays a big part in this. I've rewatched this movie the most out of any of these. I enjoy it the most. I love the story of Molly in this, who's our quote-unquote antagonist. She's going through massive grief and loss, and it's the story of, what would a child dream up if faced with such traumatic experiences that she's been through, and what if there was a creature that could provide those exact wishes? And that's what happens. Like, she dreams up this magical castle where she can live with her parents forever and stay a child forever, and like these unknown are able to craft like her dreams and be able to build anything she desires. Like, she sees her father as this powerful Pokemon, so that's what they create. She sees her mother as Ash's mother, so that's what they give her. And it's just incredibly deep for one of these movies. It seems like it could just be its own good movie outside of Pokemon, but then it plays into Pokemon tropes. The battles are so much fun. The characters are great. Like, it's a weird movie if you don't know any of this franchise to just jump in and be like, I don't know who Ash, Misty, and Brock are. They're not really described well. I don't know what these Pokemon things are. You get that they're like magical monsters that live in balls, but like, it's not like well defined in that aspect. But if you know the franchise enough, you get it. And also, if you've seen the anime, you're caught up on the anime, you know that Charizard is like off in the Valley of Dragons. So when he shows up in this movie, it's one of the coolest things ever. Like, I rip on Charizard a lot as a Pokemon, but Ash's Charizard as a character, woo, is he cool in this movie. One of the coolest finales. I love it. I've seen this movie a ton. Anytime I need to think back into a nostalgic feeling, this is the movie I go to. Just a blast. And, someday I'm sure I'll talk about this movie again on this channel, but right now, absolutely, Pokemon 3, the movie, is the best Pokemon movie. So, that is my list for the Pokemon franchise in the movie form. Which of these is your favorite? Was it Destiny Deoxys, like I kind of mentioned? Was it one of the ones that I ranked way down low on the list? Is it Pokemon 3? By all means, let me know down below. Thank you so very much for watching. As always, like this if you like this, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you at some point.